morning. It's not morning, it's 12:11. It's 11 minutes after morning. Going down this bumpy dirt road, waving at my neighbors. Getting my hair cut so I can get out of this hat. Not that I don't like my hat, I do. I got this hat in New Mexico when Rachel and I were driving back from our 4 days, 3 nights in Havasu Falls. 2 years ago in February. It was cold. It was so cold that I had packed I bought this off, I don't know if it's Craigslist or Facebook Marketplace. Really nice insulated sleeping bag. And all these other sleeping bags. I mean, I looked for sleeping bags. All these other sleeping bags. I still sleep in this sleeping bag, so I got my money. I think we paid $100 or $150 for 2 sleeping bags. Rachel got one just like it. But they were really good sleeping bags. In fact, I'll have to find a picture of me and my pack. My pack was almost bigger than me. And after having done this, I realized that I didn't need all that stuff down there, but you're down there and there is a store a couple of miles if you hike back up but it's not straight up, but almost to the store, but everything's 3 times the price because the only way to get things into Havasu is by helicopter or by pack mule or by people packing it down. Beautiful. It's a reservation on the edge of the Grand Canyon. It's called Havasupai Falls. Beautiful. It was just so this is an interesting story. So this is kind of how that all came about. I don't remember if I was looking through a book or if I was looking on the internet and I saw this otherworldly, so beautiful waterfall. And I thought, wow, that's so pretty. I'd love to visit there. And it was in Arizona. So I either printed the picture or cut the picture out of a magazine and I put it on my goal poster. Now, if you would have asked me when I cut that picture out and stuck it on my goal poster, if I really was ever going to go to this place, I would have said, it's on my bucket list. That's what I would have said. Be careful what you put on your goal poster, right? So I put this on my goal poster, and this is like crazy the way God makes things happen. So there was a family that I'm very good friends with. He was in my Sunday school class years ago. He grew up married and had precious children, and his wife had done some office work for me because I'm always so desperate for help. And her mother, who is this amazing woman, she does the best photography. She's like into nature photography. She decides to go. And it was supposed to be an all-girls trip, right? So I'm like, I'm in. I want to go. Because it wouldn't cost as much, right, if we all drove out together and we shared expenses. So at the last minute, there was one of the younger girls that wanted to go. Her live-in boyfriend wanted to go with us. And I said, no, I do not want to. It's different. An all-girls trip and someone's live-in boyfriend going with us, it's just different. And I said, no, I don't want to do that. And, I mean, it's good. It wasn't wrong. It's just I didn't want to do that. It makes it very different is to have a bunch of old menopausal women going. And not that there wasn't a young girl going, too. We could laugh and have fun. But it just changes everything to have a man in the group. Not that there's anything wrong with men and not that there's anything wrong with co-ed groups. It's just not what I signed up for. So I said, now this is after, I don't remember if we had just were about to buy the tickets, because this is the thing about Havasu. You can't just go. It opens up, I think it's February the 2nd, and it's full within 30 minutes to an hour. All of the permits are sold. You have to have a permit to get down there. You can't just go in. So all the permits are gone. Now you might get a permit from somebody else, but you're not going to get a permit from them. So in fact, there's this really cool Facebook group that's all about what to wear and what to bring and what not to bring. I have a few ideas after doing it. It was so far, we walked so far the first day. I'm getting warm now. Turn my heater down. I'm bundled. My toenails bruised and almost fell off. And I thought I had them short, not short enough. If you're going to hike 13 miles in one day, I recommend that you file your toenails almost off and you double sock. So that was I had them short, but I did not have them filed completely off, and I did not double sock. So they were really bruised. I was surprised I didn't lose my toenail. So anyway, back to getting on the computer and getting our tickets. So like when it opens up at 8 or 10 o'clock, whatever, it's like 10 o'clock our time was 8 o'clock Arizona time, you get in there and you tell them what date you want to be there, and you purchase your ticket and then, or your permit, and then they're all sold, they're all sold. So we got in, and this was like so God and so amazing, because God is amazing. I keep saying my daughter said, I want to go with you, my oldest daughter. And this was a physical challenge for her to make this trip. And it was very challenging for her. I've got some video, I'm not sure. If you look 2 years ago in February, you'll probably find this on my YouTube channel of us hiking down. So to get to the second falls, you have to travel through, you have to climb through the mountain. It's like a tunnel, not a big tunnel, but small, and then these ropes and chains. So here's the interesting thing. It's probably 30 foot, maybe 40 foot, I don't know, maybe 50 foot. Well, I don't know. You could look it up. I'm sure they have. If you fall, nobody cares. Nobody cares. Nobody's there to catch you. You are just independent, right? If you want to do this, do it. And if you don't want to do it, don't do it. But don't be stupid and do it if you can't physically do it. So, God paid for this trip. We delivered a puppy on a Friday, I think. Drove all the way down Abilene. I mean, we were close to Abilene. Then we spent the night in a hotel. This was God. The guy we delivered the puppy to paid for our hotel. How sweet was that? Then we got up the next day and drove to Phoenix. And it was a long, hard trip to Phoenix. But this was so God. We arrived about 10 or 10:30 that night. And these sweet people I still Facebook with, adorable people. They were in Scottsdale in a gated community, and we got there at 10:30. So it must have been in March, because the end of February, the 1st of March, because we got there right as this big basketball game had ended, and they had a big party, and they had all these people over. Well, all the people were gone when we got there, so it was just so perfect, and we were so exhausted. We had 2 puppies left with us. I remember theirs and another ladies that I still Facebook with too, and delivered these 2 puppies, spent the night, and we were so exhausted. They were so precious. She says, well, when I had called her, we were going to bring their puppy out. She said, well, we have an extra bedroom with its own private bath if you want to stay with us. I said, sold, ma'am. We're staying with you. Oh my gosh. Heidi is her name. Precious people. And 2 little boys, Braden and Bryson. No, that's not right. That's not right. Anyway, I'll think of it. I've watched them grow up the last 2 years. Just adorable kids. Now that's bugging me. I can't think of the little boy's name. Just adorable children. And Aaron and Heidi. Got to stay with them, got up the next day, and Rachel was just pretty weary by the next day. So this is Saturday. Pretty sure this was Saturday or Sunday. Anyway, we did not leave there until 2 or 2:30. Rachel dumped everything out and repacked her backpack. Mine was packed. I don't think I had unpacked it. finally got on the road. I mean, these people were so wonderful and so precious. They made us breakfast, and we just visited and kind of got to know them, played with the puppy. They had this enormous house. Like, their front door was as big as 2 front doors. Everything was custom. It's 3 or 4 car garage. Anyway, it was just beautiful. Just really enjoyed the cactus saguaros in their front yards. Absolutely beautiful. We drove from there. I remember driving through Prescott and getting to the top of Havasupai. It was dark, and you're on this private land to get there, kind of through this farmland, and you can't go fast because you're going over cattle guards, and there are cattle, and sometimes the babies lay on the road, so you can't just like do 65 miles an hour. But anyway, we got there. It was 9 or 10 o'clock that night, and we rolled out our sleeping bags and we slept in the van, which a lot of people do that at the top of Havasu Falls. You just sleep there. Got up the next morning, because that was when our permit was for to hike down. Kind of messed around up at the top for a little while. It was probably lower than 32 degrees. There was water frozen outside. Now, we had paid the Indians, I don't know what else to call them, Native Americans, I'm not sure, beautiful brown people, to pack our really big, we had a day pack on, and we paid these people that live there and work there, this is their reservation, right, to pack our big backpack down there, which was a good thing. There's no way I could have carried that backpack. I did carry it at the end. We had to carry it a little over a mile, but I could not have carried it 13 miles. I was practicing with the backpack before I left, and Tanya kept telling me, because my twin sister lived on the back of a truck and planted trees for 7 years, so she knows what it is to put these little baby pine trees on your back and swing a hodat all day. Yeah, she has muscle that she's not someone you'd want to meet in a dark alley. My twin sister. Anyway, the mules packed it down and the mules packed it out. And there were people that did pack their own pack down, and they packed their own pack out. And I was amazed, and it was a phenomenon to me that the human body can do that. My human body cannot do that. Just the day pack, carrying a little bit of water, which I did not need near the water that they told me they did. Number one, it was 32 degrees, and number two, I had eaten an entire pineapple before we left. I had to stop and pee every 15 minutes. So one time, where do you pee, right? On the trail, you just look around if nobody's around you. There's not many bushes, but there are boulders. And so on the switchback, on that first mile down, till you kind of get down it's a mile down into the canyon. So I'm looking around, I don't see anybody. So I squat to pee, and I look up on the switchback, and all these people are walking down. They weren't very close. They were a long ways away, but still they could see I was going to the bathroom. But it didn't matter, trust me. I had eaten an entire pineapple. I was fully hydrated, and my bladder was fully full. So you just keep going, right? Just pee like a coyote and keep going. We met several times. There's video of this on the YouTube channel. It'll be 3 years ago in February we went, because as soon as we got back from that, Tim and I had just gotten back from a cruise. That's why I was so tan, because I had been tanning in the tanning beds to go on a cruise, and then I had went on the cruise, and I got some nice sun on the cruise, and then we went to Havasu, so I was good and tan. Although there was the last day before I wore shorts, and it was 70 something in the daytime. It was warm enough to wear shorts, and there were a few people swimming in that top. But that first day, it didn't warm up to 60 degrees, and the mist and the water, it was freezing. There would be no swimming. Anyway, I don't know why I said all of that about my beautiful trip to Havasu Falls, is that God paid for it. And we did drive back. So we were down there 3 nights. And when we came out, we we rode the helicopter out. I wanted to walk out, and Rachel said, Mother, I'm not physically able to walk 13 miles. And then some of it is in sand, and I don't know if you've ever walked for several miles in sand. And a lot of it's just old creek bed, and it wasn't hot. I mean, it was cold. So like if you do Havasu Falls in July, you can be a piece of beef jerky and just dry up and die, because it's hot, and it's very hot in the Grand Canyon in July. But anyway, when we came out, we rode the helicopter out, but we got up there in line about 7:10, and we didn't ride the helicopter out until 2 o'clock. So another funny story. I mean, you get to know people in line, right? You're in line for I don't know how many hours. So there was this young medical student there, and him and his two buddies had just graduated. Just amazing young man, beautiful young man. Well, my daughter was still in nursing school. She's graduated now. She's been at this position for a year in October up in St. Louis, my oldest daughter. So anyway, we're visiting with this young man, and his two friends had hiked out, but they had left their big, huge backpacks. And these are expensive backpacks, and they're full of their stuff. So they somehow thought that this helicopter was going to take these backpacks out. But sometimes they do, and sometimes they don't. So visiting with this young medical student, he had just graduated medical school and was fixing to start his internship. Of course, him and Rachel had a lot to talk about, because Rachel not only went to nursing school, she was a full-time nurse at a hospital for 5 years before she started nursing school. So she knew the ins and outs of all of this stuff, and which has really paid off now, because a lot of the nurses that are getting out of nursing school have never really been on the floor doing these practical things, and she has. So, and she's 30, she'll be 35 in May. So it seems like she's been a nurse for 10 years, even though she just got her license a year ago in May. Anyway, I can't believe I forgot this lovely young man's name. His two friends had already made it to the top. So you take a number and you kind of get in line, like at the Department of Finance and Administration. So he said, because our packs had went up with the mule, he said, would you take one of these packs and tell my friends that are at the top that I'm coming? I just haven't got out. Well, the other crazy thing was a storm started blowing in. It was 2 o'clock, and a storm started blowing in. Well, if you know anything about helicopters, you don't fly if there's wind and rain, because you can crash against the canyon walls. So anyway, when it came our turn, when we were ahead of this young man, we grabbed his two friends' backpacks and we jumped on the helicopter, which was allowable, one per person on, and we held these people's backpacks like they were ours, right? So when we got to the top, here was these two anxious young men straining and looking at every person that came off of the helicopter to see if they could find their friend, because they couldn't leave without their friend. So when we got off the helicopter, the young man had described his two friends, and we saw them up there earnestly looking, for us, and so, or looking for their friend. They were looking, and I think they recognized their bags. They were looking at us, and we were waving at them, and we ran over and gave them their backpacks and assured them that their friend was on his way out as soon as his number. I tell you, it was after 2 o'clock, and we were praying that storm didn't roll in, or you had to walk out. So I really don't quite know what they do, because you cannot camp there if you do not have a permit. You cannot camp on the way up or on the way down, although the only other people going up and down are other campers and the Indian people that live on the reservation that have the horses. I'm not saying that you couldn't sneak around and do it. I'm just saying you're not supposed to. And we didn't have any gear to camp. We had zero gear. All we had was our little day pack on us. This is what I remember when I got Because if you go in the summertime, you're swimming, but we did not swim. I found one, so I don't know if you know anything about reservations, and Indian people are typically not like keep everything working. They're kind of like my husband. If it's broken, maybe it'll fix itself or I'll get around to it. So I went into the women's restroom. There was one, no, I think there was 2 toilets out of the 3 that worked, and there was one little warm water thing that worked out of several sinks in the bathroom. And I found a bar of soap. No, I think they had some pump hand soap, and I washed my hair because I hadn't washed my hair since Sunday, and it was Thursday. My hair is very short, but I like to keep it clean. I wash my hair. So anyway, I don't know why I said all of that. Be careful what you put on your goal poster. It was a trip of a lifetime. In fact, my daughter talked to me a couple days ago, and we want to go back in February 2022 and take some people, because we do know a little bit about, having been there, what to pack, what not to pack. And we're not going in February, the end of February, 1st of March. We're going to go the end of March, 1st of April, so we can swim and enjoy all of that. But you know, just the magnificence of God. Okay, I know it's 21 minutes. I gotta tell you another great story. This was 2 years ago. Well, it'll be 3 years ago in January. So before the cruise, 3 years ago in February, in January, I did a dog show down south of Fort Worth called Glen Rose, Texas, and I always wanted to see the dinosaur prints in the river bottom down there. So I signed up for this dog show. I either had 5 or 6. I had Taffy, that's when her and I really bonded. I had Layla and her sister Giggles. I had Nolan, and I think I had Natalie. No. I had Holly Berry, because Natalie really was a nicer dog than Holly Berry, which is, Natalie was Callie and Steffi's mom, who passed from surgery. She had eaten something, and anyway, cried my eyes out. 2 surgeries, like $4,000 later. So I had a van load of dogs. I'm by myself, which I didn't want anybody with me. I was gone 13 days. I think it's the longest I've ever been away from Tim. Not that bothered me, but it really bothered him that I was gone. So here, I said all that to say this. I did Glen Rose Saturday, Sunday, then went back to Dallas and stayed with my mom Monday and Tuesday. And Wednesday, I got up and drove to San Antonio, which is a little drive from Dallas. Spent the night with my girlfriend there, and Thursday at like 4 o'clock in the morning, we get up and we drive down to Sidon, which is just north of Corpus Christi. So we were on the coast, right? Which is a long ways for this Northwest Arkansas girl. So we had looked at the weather, and the only beautiful day in January to go to the beach was that Thursday. So we showed like at 8:30 in the morning. We showed our dogs, we crammed them in the car, and we headed to the beach. So this was so God. My girlfriend actually grew up by Padre Island, and I did not know the way, but she knew the way, and she had bull mastiffs too. So her van was full and my van was full, and she knew the way, and I just had to keep up with her. And there was this really super long bridge. So you're going over this super long bridge, right? And she knew. We went to Mustang Beach. She knew right where to go. And we parked on the beach. We took our vehicles and we were right on the beach. And there was no one there. It's January. But it was almost 80 degrees. It was 79 degrees. This is funny. Her mom was with her, and she forgot to bring shorts. So I had these little softy swimmy shorts. And so I didn't have a pair of shorts for me. So I just picked up a pair of blue jeans. And I always carry a butcher knife in my glove box. I whipped out my butcher knife and I cut me a pair of shorts. Got me a pair of shorts on, and we got into the water about knee deep and played, and the dogs got out and ran and played, and got some great video. If you look, so to be 18, yes, it had been January 2018. If you look back on those YouTubes, you'll find those YouTubes of us on the beach. So I said all that to say this. When I was a teenager, my stepmom would take my stepsister and go do fun things, like take all her friends to Padre Island. But I was the stepchild, so I didn't get to go to do things like that. And it was very hurtful. And so I was just laughing about being on the beach, which I love the beach, absolutely love the beach. And I told my girlfriend, I said, you know, I must have said one time, God, I really want to go to Padre Island. I mean, you know, being a young teenager, of course, you want to do what everybody else is special in doing. I remember the First Baptist Church there in Springdale, they would take these kids on a ski trip. I don't know when, but maybe it was over spring break or something. And, you know, I always wanted to, not that I wanted to ski, I just wanted to be one of the popular kids and get to go to something like this, but we never had money for anything like that. And I don't remember how much money it cost, but at that time it was, you know, sell your left kidney or something. It was impossible. It was not something feasible for me as a child, as a, you know, 12, 13, 14-year-old to be able to, something that your parents usually pay for, right? Anyway, God is so good like that, and He makes our dreams come true. And it's just like going on a cruise. My whole life, I wanted to go on a cruise. Oh my gosh, this is long. I'm still going to tell you one more beautiful story about God and dreams. My whole life, I wanted to go on a cruise. I know it's silly, but I'm from this little, I was born in Texas, but grew up in Arkansas on a little farm, and my whole life, I love the ocean. Now, I had been to the ocean plenty because my birth mother lived in Orlando, so every year we'd go down there for a couple weeks, and I got to visit the ocean every year. You know, I remember in 1976 being at Disneyland and watching all the fireworks, and it was the big bicentennial, 200 years, and how far we've come from then. So I had a girlfriend that worked for me, and she said to me one time, you're never going to go on a cruise. If your husband wanted to take you on a cruise, he would have done them before now. And I cried. I went to bed and I cried that night. And so the interesting thing about your dreams and seeing your dreams, I found this picture. I think I found it at Hobby Lobby, and it was an interesting frame, and it looked like kind of a yellowy treasure map maybe, and it had tropical, you know, like tropical plants are different, you know, they can take the salt wind and water, and it had this tropical plant, and it looked like you were looking out of this little porthole on a ship. And I'd often sit in my bed at night. It's the only time I was in my bed when I went to bed.